Hello, thank you for joining for this talk. My talk today has to do with a story. It's called A Parrot and a Bamboo Thicket. So I will read the story with the words that are written for you to enable some of you to better understand the story. So in a bamboo thicket at the foot of the Himalayan mountains, there once lived a parrot together with many other animals and birds. One day, a fire started in the thicket from the friction of the bamboo stalks rubbing against each other in a strong wind. And the birds and the animals were frightened and confused. So this parrot lived in a thicket. Thicket is like a grove of trees or bamboo, a small forest. And a fire started from the bamboos rubbing against each other in a strong wind. But the parrot was concerned about his friends, the other creatures living in the thicket. And here is an illustration, the only illustration in the story. And here's a fire and a parrot, and these are the droplets that has to do with the essence of the story that I will now proceed to tell you. The parrot, feeling compassion for their fear and suffering, and wishing to repay the kindness he had received in the bamboo thicket, where he was allowed to shelter himself, tried to do all he could to save the other creatures. So he was deeply grateful for what the bamboo thicket had provided him, a home and his friends, and he felt great compassion, concern for how his friends were in fear and in suffering. So what did he do? He dipped himself in a pond nearby and flew over the fire and shook off the drops of water to extinguish the fire. He repeated this diligently with a heart of compassion out of gratitude to the bamboo thicket. So he is determined, but his method was to dip himself in a pond and then fly away over the grove and the fire and drop the droplets. This spirit of kindness and self-sacrifice was noticed by a heavenly God who came down from the sky and said to the parrot, "You have a gallant mind, but what good do you expect to accomplish with a few drops of water against this great fire?" So obviously, it's a question that we would ask too, right? How can you put out a fire with these droplets from your feathers? Asked the great God. The parrot answered, "There is nothing that cannot be accomplished by the spirit of gratitude and self-sacrifice. I will try over and over again, and then over again in my next life." The great God was impressed by the parrot's spirit, and together they extinguished the fire. End of the story. Isn't that a nice story? Well, the God has great power and potential, so together they were able to put out the fire. But even though what the parrot was doing was very limited, but the God was impressed by his effort, his spirit. And so what does the story teach? What does the story teach us? And it teaches us that, and I will read here, we cannot help but be moved by the parrot's determination and effort to put out the fire, even though it seems like a lost cause. He may feel the same way about how much each of us can contribute in tackling huge social problems such as poverty, mass shootings, and climate change. But the parrot teaches us an important lesson. That lesson is that if all of us did our small part, then we collectively will become a huge force to accomplish what appears to be an impossible task. Well, the message may not be, revolutionary or anything new, but it's something that we need to remind ourselves because there are many huge problems facing all of us, especially, in my view, is the climate change. I myself personally don't have much time on Earth, but I'm concerned about our grandchildren, 50 years from now, what the world would look like. And so we need to do all we can right now, but the task seems so huge. But what little we can do, we should do. And the parrot has taught us that even a small way will go a long way if all of us participated. So please consider that. We know that in our head, but we are, less likely to take action. But with this kind of message, hopefully that we can contribute in our small way so that collectively we can accomplish what needs to be done. Thank you for joining and all the best as we confront many of the issues in the world for which religion, including Buddhism, can play a huge role. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.